if I use
from basement out so I can try to save the furnace from the hot water heater.
you might want to go dump it.
Did some test runs to make sure everything was good.
got the email, I just can't download.
Hey, Tricia.
Where's my download button?
Once again, there's more public works on here than anything else.
I had an electrician already, and the guy says, well, you need to ask me 1 or 2 days ahead of time, because I'm not gonna be here, and according to my schedule, and I'm thinking, I got it. I don't need your.
We're good, we can start now.
When we get done, I'm gonna clean out everything that's, I got in the garage that belonged to my mom, I had a rummage sale. She don't realize it, but when I'm done, I'll put it for sale sign.
There you go.
So I'm gonna tell her then, guess what? A month, 2 months to get out.
There you go.
I might go wear all of my safety shirts at one time.
Now we're on my schedule.
There you go.
Just have Legos on.
You wanna be so nice to him for so long, and then. All right, let's get going. Welcome. I'd like to open the Public Service Committee meeting, Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, a little after 6. Roll call, please.
Alderman Sherry Pickering.
Here.
Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York.
Here.
John Cooper.
Here.
Chairman Rick Streebing.
Here.
7 present.
7 present. Thank you. Puts us at item number 2, approval of the minutes for 02/25. Is that 1? Would that be January 1, or did I mark it down wrong?
February.
The minutes?
It's just February 25th,
February.
2025.
Okay, February 22. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes for February 2nd? If not, all those in favor signify.
February 25th.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, 225.
You're sounding like me last week.
I
now.
know,
Come on now.
I know. February 25th. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So that's what you
Opposed?
get for giving me a hard time, Chairman.
I don't think there's any changes in the approval of the agenda tonight, so I'll need a motion to accept and approve the agenda as given to you.
So moved.
Second.
All those, anybody got a question on the agenda? All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Puts us at item number 4, audience comments.
Did anyone wish to speak this evening? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have anything to say. Puts us to approval of payrolls for 3/21 of 25. Need a motion and a second to approve the payrolls, please.
So moved. Second.
Is there any questions on the payrolls? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Streebing.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to item number 7, approval of vouchers payable. We have a special run for 3/20 of 25 and a regular run for 3/25 of 25. We'll need a motion and a second to approve the vouchers payables, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the vouchers payables? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering.
Yes.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Streebing.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us item number 8, City Clerk's report from Ms. Lisa Munson, the City Clerk. 8A is an ordinance amending Chapter 123 of the City Code pertaining to tobacco products regulations. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 8A's ordinance? Yes, John?
What are we doing here? I mean, something new apparently.
We are changing language in section 123.03E. What we're doing is removing Director of Public Safety, making that Chief of Police, and then we're also striking language where the City Council has to approve the tobacco licenses.
That's fine.
Any other questions?
What's the rationale behind, I can understand the change of language, but what's the rationale behind removing the city council approval?
It holds up the issuing the license oftentimes, And that and the ambulance licenses are the only licenses that have to be approved by the city council.
So the alcohol and those other licenses don't. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Strebing.
Yes?
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Items of information, Ms. Munson?
Just wanted to remind everyone, the statement of economic interest deadline is May 1st to file in the Vermillion County Clerk's office. Did everyone receive those forms? Okay. Also, we sent out our annual business licenses, and this is the first time this year that licensees can apply online. We kind of had some issues with getting those out, but they are out. If anyone mentions they're having some issues with getting that done online from local licensees, just have them call our office and we'll help them with that. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody got any questions for him? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Puts us item number 9, Community Relations. Brianna Oles, Administrator, her items of information.
Hi. I have just a couple of things. First is the First Friday coming up, which is a 5K super run. Registration for that's $10. It's available in person. You can sign up day of, or you can sign up online and kind of skip the wait and having to hassle with money. It helps us out as well with volunteers. We are actually almost completely full in our volunteers, but we do have a couple of spots. So if you're available to help us out, we'd really appreciate it. So that's April 4th, and the race starts at 6 p.m., but registration starts at 5. So if you want to get there a little bit early, you can. We also plan to have a guided stretching time at the very beginning, which is a new addition this year. My second thing is I handed out guidance cards. These I worked on with Chief Yates and the Step Up group. Essentially, we created these. They've had them in the past, but they're quick and easy for public safety to be able to keep in their pockets and hand them out whenever needed. They're made of like a flexible, good material, so if they get crumpled up in a pocket, here's some extras. If they get crumpled up in a pocket, they're not gonna be ruined. If they get rained on, because we know Illinois weather, they probably will be, they're not gonna be ruined. So they should be pretty good to go. And we hope that I have personally called every single one of these lines and verified that they work. So we hope that these come in use and the officers will be able to keep them on them. Does anybody have any questions or anything for me?
Are you running, Mayor?
Pardon?
Are you running?
I am. I'm excited. I'll actually be able to run this year instead of just survive. So
I can't even do that.
Something to add to what this was started with the cards is we've assembled a pretty good group of social services and assisting services that can provide different help because it seems like every agency has its challenges. We can do this, but we can't do that. The first thing that we wanted to do was with these cards was provide those 24-hour services and those other services that's the place where people contact when we find them in a position where they may reach out for help. Once they reach those services, we've also created, and the second step of this is creating a resource tree for each of the different agencies that can provide assisting services and then resources for each one of those services to different groups. So it's specifically a networking model to where a lot of people in the past, we've seen this, and I think you've seen it also, where a lot of your programs, not with any intent to do so, but often find themselves working within silos. Over the last few years, we've really been able to bridge those gaps between the challenges that one agency may have with the resources and capabilities that another resource has, to where they can work in collaboration with each other, along with the police department and the city, to provide the assistance and help that they often may feel like they don't have. Whenever you're dealing with someone with different addictions, a lot of the problems is that this won't work because I'll run into a wall somewhere, and then that just is magnified. Their frustrations are magnified, and they can very easily fall back into that 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 their challenges. So we're trying to eliminate those and give them the best opportunity as possible with the best and most efficient and effective collaboration of resources.
Yes. Go ahead.
Chief, I appreciate you getting this together with the Veteran Services. There's a lot of veterans here with the Veterans Medical Center, and for them to be able to access this, it's great. Thank you.
We had an opportunity to train with the VA and their PTSD counselors, as well as some of the other counselors, and they're very good. And it wasn't by coincidence. It was just the training came at a good time because we have reached out to them on different occasions and been able to provide some type of guidance or help for those different people in need. Unfortunately, law enforcement, or maybe it's fortunately, law enforcement is often the first face that someone in crisis sees, and we've just got to equip our officers as well as enable the agencies that conduit.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Is the 211? I noticed that the 211 number isn't on here. Is that still in use or no?
I believe so it is. Chief Yates and I, when we went through them, we used the lines that are most local to start with. We were finding out kind of similar to what Chief Yates said, when we use the 211 lines and other lines like that, they just get resourced out, and they're not able to make that immediate connection. All of these lines are all Vermilion County local. They can reach a facility here.
Okay.
And it's a person they talk to.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
All right, puts us to item number 10, finance. Alyssa Sweetens, the comptroller. Items 10A is items of information. A1 is fiscal year 2024, 2025 cash flow and budget performance report. 10A2 is personnel monthly report, and 10A3 is risk management monthly report. Paperwork to follow. So, Ms. Sweeten?
I don't believe the risk management report was sent yet. The risk manager has had several issues going on in the department, including 30 new hires in the last couple weeks. So she wasn't able to get the report completed, but we can get that out following. Were there any questions regarding the other reports?
Yes.
I have a question, not specifically about the report, but specifically as it relates to personnel, and it really is probably a question for the mayor. My understanding from what has been conveyed to me, from what was read, not necessarily that I read for myself, so I can't say that I've verified anything that I was told, but my understanding is that as it relates to the human relations position, that the plan is to have the position posted as soon as possible and possibly have someone in place to bring to us for approval, hopefully in May, but that there are also going to be changes made to the job description. So if that is true, and I don't know that it is, but if that is true, my question is, would we be seeing the job description? Because if a position with a new job description is to be posted, my expectation would have been that it would have been on the agenda tonight, because that's a very rapid time frame. But if that information is inaccurate, then the time frame doesn't matter.
So the position has been posted, and we are receiving applications for it. Basically, the only two changes that were made were, one, clarifications on requirements, making sure that the requirements were stringent in terms of the amount of experience a person had, to be sure that we get someone that has the investigative experience, especially that we're looking for, Vice Mayor. And then the other item was there were a couple of things where it said specific things, and that were all fell under Chapter 95, and I just said instead that the person would complete the duties as outlined in Chapter 95 of the ordinance.
Okay, so the position is posted now.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. So can you highlight what the requirements changes are as it relates to experience?
I think the big thing was making sure that we required a 4-year degree, and then that they would have one of the things we specifically noted was having investigative experience, where they're not just taking reports, but they're actually conducting investigations.
Are we requiring that they are a certified EEO investigator?
We are not. We say that that's preferred.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Sweeten? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
What's this item number 11? Fire, Aaron Marcotte, Fire Chief, has a resolution authorizing the sale of a 1990 Pierce fire apparatus 75-foot ladder truck to the Village of Tilton. Make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this ordinance? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Teague,
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to 11B, items of information and monthly status report. Chief?
Yep, not really too much going on. We're doing our annual host testing, just kind of waiting to get outside to train a little bit. So we've picked a few days here and there we've been able to do that. Yeah, that's really, I don't have much for you other than that. The trucks are in service and working. Some things coming up next month is air pack testing, all that stuff. We got some classes coming up for the basic aerial operations. CSX is coming in to do a hazardous materials class for us next month, and thermal imaging class next month coming in. So just kind of waiting to get outside and train.
And then Saturday you have
Right.
the banquet?
Yes, Saturday is the banquet. Yeah.
Chairman, I'm really proud of our fire department. One of the things is we're always sending our team away to train. We're actually starting to host trainings here. And we'll also be doing some host projects, I believe, with Urbana and Champaign coming up that Chief will tell you about as we're solidifying them a little bit better.
I can remember years ago when Mike Poore and myself went over, when the aldermen were allowed to go over to the fire safety and the training over in Champaign. And one of the guys said, if you guys want to know how to, because they didn't have very many over there, they said, if you want to learn how to fight a fire, go to Danville.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was years ago. So, and thank you for everything you've been doing with the training as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we get reimbursed for that training, or is that just something we're going to do?
Some of what we do. So certain state fire marshal classes we get reimbursed. Usually it's about 50%. Some of the MABUS training we do gets reimbursed through them. Not all is done. Some of it's just ours to do. We're looking and hoping maybe in the future as we start to bring classes here that maybe some of the other departments, you know, could be an avenue for us to sort of charge for that. It's not like you're looking to make money, but to charge for it and cover expenses and things. So.
Do you use the new training facility we've got at all?
What's that?
Do you use the new training facility for any of this, or is it all done in fire department?
Oh, the police department?
Yeah.
We were close one time. We haven't yet. It's not certainly a possibility because you can seat a lot more people and do things and stuff. But yeah. So far, the number just depends on the number of people we have attending. So yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Item number 12, Information Technology, Agnell De Silva, Chief Technical Officer. His items of information monthly report, you'll have to take it for what you were given because Agnell's under the weather this evening. So anybody have any questions on technology? Thank you. Puts us to item 13, legal. Leon Parker, Corporate Counsel, has a ordinance amending Chapter 163 for the rental registration. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 13A's ordinance?
Yeah, a few.
Yes, John?
Okay, I'm a tenant. I've got a problem with the place I'm renting from. I complained to the city for a code violation. and then I get a letter saying they're going to evict me. How are we going to stop that if it's retaliation clause or retaliation?
How are we gonna what?
How are we going to help the tenant out if that is a retaliation?
So, a couple things. We get the complaint, and with the changes to the ordinance, we will also have a form that our landlord owners are going to fill out with information regarding their rental units. And as part of that, in signing that, they consent to inspections. So when we get a complaint, it actually helps us with this ordinance. We've got a mandate to inspect all of our rental units in a period of time. So when we get a complaint, that allows our rental inspector to go out, inspect that unit, which we have to do anyway. While they're there, they can have the new complaint forms with all the information that we'd require of them, name, address, do they have a lease, are they current in their rent, and then their specific allegations of retaliation. And we have the inspector view that rental unit and specifically address the allegations from that tenant, bring that back to the legal department, and it could be either myself or the assistant corporation counsel review that. And currently the assistant corporation counsel is handling our city court and our small claims matters. He would review that, make a determination, and it could require additional investigation, additional follow-up. He can make a decision based on the information that he has, and if there is a determination that there's retaliation being made, then we proceed accordingly. It could result in findings that there was retaliation, and there's a section in this ordinance that you have for penalties.
Well, I guess the question I have, I've got a copy from the ones we were going to propose about 3 or 4 months ago, but we never went through with it. And I'm basing a lot on the former human resource director's notes. And out of all the notes she's put in here, I don't see too much of what she had in here, and I think she's dealt with it more than probably anybody else within this administration.
Everything that she had is in there. The only difference is who it's reported to.
Why legal and not human resources?
Human relations.
Well, human relations.
So most notably, I think what you're looking for is in 16310. And
6310.
Your question, why legal, not human relations? I think legal is best suited to handle these matters for some reasons that I've already touched on. We have inspectors that are certified. They'll process, go out and do an inspection, look into the allegations. The legal department attorneys can review the complaint and make determination on legal issues such as leases and notice requirements. The inspectors may be testifying at a hearing or a trial in city court. We obviously, they're in under the supervision of the legal department. We work closely with them. Obviously, the city legal department attorneys will be trying the case. So for all those reasons, the legal department is best suited to handle these complaints, in my opinion.
So I'm a tenant. I file a complaint. Oh, my bathroom screwed up or whatever. They get a letter saying we're going to evict you within 15 or 30 days. That's not going to be handled in city court. That'll probably be going to county court. I guess how can we protect that tenant? That's my main concern here. And half these houses are rented out. I'd like to see the landlords live in them myself, but that's not going to happen. But it is a concern that these tenants, and I've been through it once, and you pretty much documented that for everybody, but I don't want to go through it again. It's just, the last thing I heard was they had no teeth in these things, and I want to make sure that teeth are in it this time around.
I think we addressed a lot of the concerns that was raised here by council members. We certainly, in the committee that was formed, we had council members part of the committee. We had inspectors part of the committee, the mayor, attorneys, our legal staff that process these cases. And I think under the scenario that you just gave, where they could end up in circuit court, that should be additional protections for the tenant as well. You get in circuit court in front of a judge, and if there's improper notices, that can be pointed out to the judge. If there are allegations you're not current in your rent, and that's the reason you got the notice, you can bring proof that you're current in your rent. So, and certainly from a city court standpoint, if there are conditions that need to be addressed and repaired, we can certainly require that of the landlord owners. But I would think that a tenant, if you're in front of a judge, that's got a lot more teeth than our hearing officer, because they have a lot more say in what's going to happen. They can issue orders, and they can hold landlords in contempt if they're not following those orders. And a tenant is able, as I mentioned, to show proof that something is not right. The notice is not right. They are current. They are complying with the lease.
Well, and 9 times out of 10, it's not a lease. They're all month to month, and that's a big issue where the tenants don't understand what's going on. And on these month to month, they really don't need a heck of a lot of reason to evict them. And I see it every week. I'd want to know if somebody complains with the city, or with the city filing a complaint to the city. If they go to county court, can we hold off and say, hey, we're investigating this, can we delay this? And that's, I guess if I was going to have a goal, that would be the goal for me.
Well, I'd also point out, Mr. Cooper, as recently as this week, I've been in contact and had conference with the Vermilion County State's Attorney's Office. I've spoken to Chief Yates about holding landlords accountable in some of the more egregious situations, and I think that's a positive. And that's something. There's already a statute in existence, and that's not something that we even need to address in our ordinance. But we're also pursuing that in some cases that I think that it's required.
The other thing, Alderman Cooper, that we did change was originally what was given to us, it said that they would only that no complaint could be filed more than 10 days after the occurrence of the alleged allegation. We changed that to 30 days to give them more time if they did come after them.
Yeah, but usually within that 30 days, they've already got an eviction notice from the landlord, and it's already proceeding through the courthouse. And I tell you what, out of all the ones I've seen in the courthouse, I bet I've only seen one win out of about 100. It's just pretty much granted anymore. So that's
Well,
I
you know
guess
what-
that's where I'm coming from.
Sure. What we were tasked with was to address this issue of retaliation, and we've done so using exactly the steps that were provided by the previous administrator, except changing who is responsible for assessing those. So what I can tell you is always the inspectors had to get involved anytime there was any kind of retaliation. And, you know, given that they are also supervised by legal, it takes out a step in the process.
Well, I hope it works. I don't want it to be another failure, and that it was the last time, and I hope it isn't again. But that's
Vice Mayor.
I think we need to clarify the possibilities as it relates to a tenant complaint that rises to the level of retaliation. Because one of the things that was stated was a tenant makes a complaint and the code inspector then goes and does an inspection and then retaliation comes up. But those are two different complaints and two different situations. You have a tenant makes a complaint for whatever reason that a tenant makes a complaint. Then the property may or may not require inspection depending on the nature of the complaint. And then after whatever process and procedure has taken place and whatever citation or lack thereof, right, that may or may not have been issued by the city. Because there have been many times when a tenant makes a complaint and the city is unable to do anything because we have no jurisdiction over the particular issue, and yet the landlord is probably, I believe, probably still notified about the complaint. So I'll give an example because this is one that came up previously. A tenant makes a complaint about mold. Code inspection could go out and do an inspection, and the only issue that was found is mold. We do not issue citations for mold. However, this tenant made a complaint. There was no citation issued to the landlord. This tenant is on a month-to-month lease. This tenant might then get a 30-day notice, which is what Alderman Cooper's point is, to which then there is no additional inspection required. The inspection already occurred because the retaliation is not as a result of the inspection or citation. The retaliation is just based on the fact that the tenant called the city. So now the tenant is on a month-to-month lease. The tenant is served with a 30-day notice to vacate. The landlord then goes to court with the tenant and, you know, does the vacation process takes place. The landlord has not broken any law. So therefore, the judge at the courthouse would not have to cite the landlord or do anything to the landlord because the landlord is within his legal rights because there is no lease. Doesn't really matter if the tenant is current on his rent or not, or her rent or not. The landlord is within his rights to give the tenant a 30-day notice to vacate because it's a month-to-month lease. There's nothing illegal about it. It doesn't make it right. Now, one of the thing and the only thing that changed from the tenant's perspective is I complained to the city about mold. So then the question becomes, what happens with the retaliation? There is no, I want to make sure that we're not mixing instances or expectations that people have. There's nothing to inspect here. It's simply a retaliation, and it's an investigation of the retaliation only. Now, one of the other concerns that I have because after we met, and this was actually, I'm busy, so I didn't get a chance to read all of this like in the last couple of weeks. But the mayor sent this out on Thursday, this updated document out on Thursday afternoon. Over the weekend, I read Chapter 95 because I was curious as to certain definitions and different things that are in Chapter 95. So one of the things that I saw that was in Chapter 95 is that the Human Relations Division investigates a variety of things, one of them being housing complaints. And housing complaints can be both in the sale and purchase of property, those types of transactions, as well as landlord-tenant transactions. I expressed a concern when we met that the responsibility for investigating the retaliation complaints, that the language was being changed to legal counsel from human relations. I still have that, and what I said when we had the meeting was, I'm only one vote. I don't know how everybody else is going to feel about this. But I did have that concern, and I think to me, it makes more sense for it to stay with human relations, because human relations would be investigating every other type of complaint except for this. So, but I hadn't read Chapter 95 at the time that we had the meeting, because I also hadn't expected for that part to change. So I still have that concern, but I do like the fact that we kept all of the language and the process as it relates to what happens in the case of retaliation. But I do also agree with, I believe, the point that Alderman Cooper is making, in that there's a difference between what's legal and what we're trying to do here, because the landlord has every right on a month-to-month lease, which is my understanding from what happens in court, is that the majority of the tenants that are showing up in court are not, I shouldn't say majority because I don't know what the specific percentages are, but a good number of the tenants that are showing up in court are not necessarily in court because they violated their lease. They're in court because many of them, and the ones that we see, and the ones in which would fall under this particular section of the ordinance 163.10, they're in there because the landlord has exercised his legal right to terminate their lease because they are on a month-to-month lease and they're being given 30 days to vacate. And that is a situation that we're trying to avoid, because that is a situation in which we have seen many tenants that have come to this podium to talk about the fact that I've had this dispute with my landlord, and then they just gave me a 30-day notice, and I feel like I don't know what to do. Those are the people who I have specifically said, well, call human relations, because that is their job to investigate these complaints. As it relates to other things, I think one of the other things that comes to mind for me, and other reason why I have a little bit of discomfort with changing who is responsible, is because I know one of the things that used to happen with human relations is that there was also quite a bit of mediation that would occur. Like, even if the city couldn't do something, let's say mold, because that is a hot button item in this city, that doesn't mean that the human relations administrator didn't attempt to try to contact the landlord and see if something could be worked out that was mutually beneficial to all parties involved, even if the city was powerless from a legal perspective to do anything about it. I know one of the things that has come up with some landlords who have had dealings with human relations is they talked about how there are lots of times where we were able to avoid court and avoid situations because things were mediated from the Human Relations Division. I don't know if what I heard outlined from Corporation Counsel, which is accurate in terms of job responsibilities, right? that, yeah, we would make sure that everybody is following the law, but I did not hear, in terms of any changes, anything as it relates to, you know, the mediation piece. So I have that concern as well. So if that piece is staying with human relations as it relates to all other housing related issues and only retaliation complaints are going to legal, I think that that's something that needs to be understood by all parties involved, and definitely outlined. And if there's going to be a decision to separate those duties, then I think it needs to be properly outlined and delineated so that the people and the public understand who to go to for what. Because right now, everybody knows that if I have a housing related issue, for whatever reason, whether it's something that requires an inspection or not, because it could be somebody just said, I don't want you to live here because you're 19, which is still a discrimination complaint that has nothing whatsoever to do with inspection. People need to know who to go to and who not to go to for these things, as it relates to all of these complaints. So that's one of my big concerns, is that there's going to be confusion among many concerns.
Vice Mayor, I just was taking a look at the ordinance 95 again, and as far as housing in terms of sales or other issues, it's only matters of discrimination that the Human Relations Administrator is tasked with investigating. So it's not a matter of a bad house or, you know, I've got this leaky toilet or anything like that. That is nowhere outlined in the ordinance as their job.
But how is a person to know whether or not it's discrimination? Who makes that determination?
If they would need, in order for them to make that determination, in order to make that claim, they have to make that claim. They have to say, I was discriminated against because I was a woman, because I was a man, because I was gay, because I was white, because I was black.
Do the forms say that?
Yes, they do require you to
the complaint form says that?
It requires you to state the nature of your allegation. It does. It's required in the process.
So in the last, 34 years, when Human Relations was doing, I did read that as well, so I'm in agreement with that. So in the last 34 years, when Human Relations was doing this work of investigating complaints, you're saying that if a person isn't discriminated against, but they had whatever their issue was, where they complained about their landlord, then we just should not be investigating those at all?
No, I'm saying those were sent to inspections. Any complaints about the environmental issues have always been just sent to inspections. That's not something new or different. So if they're complaining about, a leaky toilet, a bad roof, anything like that, anything environmental, that always goes over to legal currently.
Yes.
So if it's discrimination, absolutely, it should go to Human Relations. But if any other thing, it always goes over to the inspectors to examine.
So, do the citizens call the inspectors directly, or were they calling Human Relations and then being sent by Human Relations to the inspectors?
They were doing both.
And which one is the appropriate protocol? Because my understanding from the initial meetings that we had was, and I think has been practiced since before I got here, was we always sent everyone to Human Relations, and then as she worked through the process of helping the people work through their paperwork and understand their situation, then she sent it over to legal for the rest of the process to occur.
If it was an environmental an issue, then she turned it over to legal to address.
Okay, so this goes back to my question of who's supposed to be called for what, or do we have one input? Because as a process person, understanding where the input is and who's supposed to be responsible, somebody has to determine whether or not a complaint is discrimination or not, or just understanding the process. And what we've all done, at least in the 4 years that I've been here, and I know many of you have been here longer than I've been here, is that we've referred people, whatever the situation is, we've referred people to human relations. Go to human relations. They'll help you fill out the forms, and they'll help you figure out next steps. And then human relations acted as the filtering process to determine the direction in which complaints would go.
And if I could just address that, Vice Mayor. So currently, as the ordinance for your consideration that you have before you, when we send our inspector out, and again, I want to emphasize, in any scenario that you pointed out, we want to send one of our rental inspectors out to inspect that rental unit, because that's what we're trying to do. One of the things we're trying to do. And during that process of getting all the information from that tenant, including the allegations, which is going to come back to the legal department, upon review, if we see that, and I'm glad that the mayor touched on Chapter 95, and it's my recollection, I haven't went through 95 in a while, but it deals with discrimination. And certainly, if we look at the form that any particular tenant has filled out and the allegations are of a discriminatory nature, we're going to send that to human resources, or human relations. That's not going to be something that we want, or nor should we, because we have a department to handle that. I also wanted to just touch on your scenario with the mold scenario, and you've pointed out that the landlord has this legal right to do that. That's why we added, if you look in the definitions, I believe it's on page 2 of the Exhibit A, punitive or retaliatory action means any action commenced after a tenant complaint or tenant consent to a city inspection, or a city-initiated inspection of a tenant dwelling inflicted or intended as punishment. And the reason we in addition to saying after a tenant complaint, it could be they've retaliated because a tenant simply consented to have one of our inspectors come in. Or it could be after one of our city initiated. We do these cyclical inspections. So any of those actions with the intent to inflict or intent as punishment, in your scenario, and the landlord has a legal right to proceed, in city court, we have our ordinance, and if after hearing we determine that there was no other basis, it could be that tenant has lived there for several months or longer and have always paid their rent, and all of a sudden now they're getting a notice of eviction simply because they filed a complaint. Our city court, we have a hearing officer, they can make that finding, and then that takes us into our punishment section of the ordinance. So I think we addressed that, and that was specifically why we added a definition for punitive or retaliatory action.
And that part, yes, I am in 100% agreement with. And what would then happen is, if the tenant is evicted in county court, because they probably would be, the tenant is then made whole in city court as a result of 163.10. Mayor, I'm not seeing anywhere in this form where it asks the question, what's the basis of your complaint, or if you were discriminated against. It's just the rental. So I went to the city's website and pulled up rental complaint form. Unless I'm on the wrong form, I don't know. This was the first one that came up in the search results. And I see name, address, type of unit, contact information, name of landlord. Has a property manager or landlord been provided information in writing, and then the dates and times and details around that. Ask the number of occupants. Ask about your rent if you're current. how much you owe, have you received eviction notice, and then it says summary of problems, and then a signature.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If a person comes and makes the allegation of discrimination, there's another form that Sandra would fill out for that.
And Vice Mayor, I believe if you look at the ordinance, the modifications we're proposing, that information, I believe, is outlined in there. And once we have this and the council has approved it, we'll modify. I don't know if that's a current complaint form, but we do plan on having where they can specifically state their allegations.
Okay, this form is dated April 23rd of 24.
Okay.
There's a date next to it in the search when it came up. So I still think that there would be confusion. And what I said when we left the meeting was, again, I'm satisfied with 163.10 because of the ability to make tenants whole. I have a concern about there being confusion in terms of who to go to as it relates to the filing of the complaint. And I also recognize that I'm only one vote out of 14.
Vice Mayor, I think one of the things we really need to do is to make sure that we clarify that to the public, and we send out press releases, we put it on our social media sites, we can send out it through our text service, that if it's any kind of landlord-tenant complaint, that it would go to the legal department unless you're alleging discrimination. Any discriminatory complaints go to human relations. And I think that that's something, no matter how this goes, that we need to make sure that we clarify to our people so they understand where they can go to get the appropriate help.
I think that would address the public's concerns, and I think it needs to be on the website.
Absolutely.
Because a text service will be good as of 5 minutes ago, but 2 years from now, when I got a complaint, I won't remember that text.
I can put all of the notices next to the applications too. So like when you search the application, it'll say this is for discriminatory cases and the direct contact person for it. So hopefully that will help kind of guide as well, so they'll know who to contact after they've submitted.
And I would also suggest that it actually be on the form to say, because if somebody goes and they're looking for tenant complaint, which is what I just did, the form needs to be able to say it. Otherwise, how would you know that you don't have the right form?
That's right.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Well, what I'd like to say is that the previous rental registration, it needed this 16310. And I think we have addressed that in 16310 because we did need that in there about retaliation. And I think it has addressed it. And I'm sure there's other things we need to add to it, amend it, just like we're talking about now. So, but I think it's important that we do get this passed for that reason, because it does, it does address the retaliation in this. And again, there's other things we probably need to add, but we can do that.
Yes.
I would concur with that, but I also want to bring up the fact that we thought we did all the work on this a year ago. Yeah. And we have tenants who then got screwed because we were then told that the work that we did was not strong enough and didn't have enough teeth. So if we don't address the concerns and the issues now, we might end up right back here again. And I want to make sure that we have thought through the unintended consequences of the things that we did, because obviously we didn't think through them enough last time. And it's been an entire year since we originally did this, and we still are having problems with it. So I am in agreement, like I said, that 16310 does address the major concern that we have with retaliation, but we also have to make sure that we bring up all of the things, because when we were in the first meeting that we had about this, when we originally met with Ms. Finch, one of the things that I brought up, that I asked about, which is what led us to this point right now, was, well, where's the form? Where's the form that tenants fill out? And nothing in the form, I'm sorry, not the form that the tenants fill out, wrong form. Where's the rental registration form? And nothing in the form said that the landlords were consenting to inspections, but it was clearly in the ordinance, and it had been in the ordinance for months. So we have to look at not just what we wrote, but all of the processes that have to get implemented and put in place after we try to follow what we wrote, to make sure that we're actually doing the things that we intended to do, because that didn't happen last time. So if we don't bring it up now, then guess what? We'll be here again. So I wanted to make sure that all the concerns are addressed, so that not just the ordinance is written and put in the code book, but so that all of the processes that follow are actually changed and updated so that they can actually implement what we're trying to address. Because that didn't happen last time. And people got hurt as a result. And I want to make sure that that part never happens again.
Yes, Alderman Art, you had your hand up earlier. Do you have something to say?
I believe my concern was addressed.
Okay.
Processing through.
Yes, Alderman Ludwig.
I just have a couple of scrivener's errors and additions that I want to bring up to the council.
Okay.
The first one is in 163 10D. So 10D1 and 10D2, where it says writing within 3 days. I think it should also say within 3 days of final determination in both places.
And that'll be added.
Okay, thank you. And then in definitions, it talks about dangerous and or unsafe. And so we have that in many locations within this ordinance, except 163.11E1, E1A and B. And so we need to put dangerous and or unsafe in those places.
That'll be added as well.
Thank you.
You said 163.11
E1,
E1.
E1A and B. So there's 3 locations where it's missing.
E1A. Okay.
Is that all, Alderman Ludwig?
Yes,
Anything else?
thank you.
I think I do have a
Okay,
comment.
Alderman.
Okay. First of all, I need to I've actually been part of the Human Relations Board for like 6 years. Okay. And so I've heard, over the last 6 years, I've worked a lot very closely with Sandra Finch, and I've consulted with her a lot about discrimination cases and housing issues. Because in my professional position with the state of Illinois, I deal with housing issues constantly. Some of them are discrimination. A lot of them are just people not paying their rent, and some of them are retaliation by landlords and property owners. I see that as well. But then as in my professional capacity, I had to differentiate. Okay, is this discrimination or is it a legal issue? Okay, and so I think part of our process that has led to problems is that maybe the human relations director was the go-to person who is making those choices. I think that's not appropriate. I think it should be somebody from the legal department, should be the first contact. Because again, and I think some of the issues that we've even talked about here that led to this whole the revision of this piece right here. I think we were thinking that it was discrimination, and it clearly wasn't. So it wasn't. I don't think it was really a human relations issue to begin with. I think it was a legal situation, and I believe it was retaliation completely. But I don't think it was a human relations issue based on discrimination. You follow me? So in the cases that I have heard as part of the Human Relations Board, Sandra was very good at identifying that they were discrimination. And there is mechanisms in place, because I've been part of that, where we have held property managers or property owners responsible, and there's steps that we took and fines that we imposed and all of that because of the discrimination that has occurred. So I think we just need to make sure that the point of contact is clearly outlined, okay? But then also because there are issues when discrimination kind of clouds the whole situation. But I think a lot, in my experience with the Human Relations Commission, I think a lot of those issues are actually legal issues, and they're not as the discrimination issues aren't as prevalent as maybe suggested. I don't know, and I could be wrong. And it's also age. It's what I deal with a lot is physical limitation and disabilities. Okay, and then it could be race, it could be age, it could be sexual orientation, all kinds of different things. And so, I don't know. I think we just need to make sure that the process is outlined clearly. Yeah.
And is that something that would be in this, or is that something that we'd have to address at another place?
That's something that the staff would have to make sure is clear.
Right. So we need to do that. Exactly.
And my point was not that it has to be addressed in this. My point was that if we're doing this, that we need to make sure that it's being addressed, because we did this and the other pieces were not addressed.
Correct.
Yes, John.
It's still, okay, our process with the city could take up to 30 days. I'm gathering out all this. Am I right or wrong? I mean, by the time we investigate. So this guy, the tenant that's filing a retaliation claim, or he's going to get evicted, court doesn't really care if he's getting evicted on retaliation or anything else. They're going to evict him. I guess my concern is, once that whole process starts, can't we, as a city, and maybe we can, maybe we can't, I don't know, protect that tenant until we make a final determination on whether it was retaliation or not? I mean, you've got Lincoln Land out there, and you can't get a hold of them. That's about a waste of time. But as far as when they go to court, 90% of these tenants don't have a lawyer. And if there is a possibility of retaliation on this, or possibility of discrimination, they could be well evicted before we even get to that point. And I guess that somewhat bothers me.
So we can expedite our city court hearings. And again, we have hearing officers that if a landlord comes in and asks for continuancy, a continuance, which would delay that even more, we can strenuously object to that, and we can point out to the hearing officer the situation and the need to expedite the hearing. But we can't issue orders that would force any landlord or tenant to comply with. That would have to be a circuit or associate judge doing that.
Well, I get it, and I think that's 9 times out of 10, these people are going to be evicted before we can do them any good.
I think the only good thing, this only saving grace at all that we have is what Vice Mayor mentioned earlier, is that if they are, then we have a way now to make them whole. I think it's a minimum, I think we said, of 2 times their rent, up to $5,000 plus deposits, getting their deposits back, getting moving expenses paid for, a whole bunch of other things. So we may not actually be able to stop the person from being evicted, unfortunately. But if they are, we can make sure that we make it painful enough for the landlord that they don't do that crap to somebody else.
We're not going to eliminate the eviction off the record. And that's a big issue.
I don't think legally there is a way that we can do that.
Sorry. If I had a concern, that's it.
But didn't it come up in the conversation that that corporation counsel could go to court, not municipal court, but county court, and file a motion that says we have a case, we also have a case on this matter? I believe that associate counsel brought that up in the meeting that we had, that we have a case on this matter, and that we asked for the court to wait to make a ruling on this case until municipal court makes a ruling on this case, because we believe we are investigating retaliation.
As a friend of the court, and that would be up to the discretion of the judge. I wouldn't want to hang my hat on that. And there may be other things to consider. While you're in front of that judge, there may be a lot of evidence that a judge would determine, no, we're not waiting. But yes, that can happen.
Right. Because that was the other, because to the point that Alderman Cooper is making, it was, well, the person is going to go to court and the clock starts ticking, they're going to be put out. But I remember from one of the prior meetings, I don't remember which one it was, that it was brought up that we would show up as a friend of the court on behalf of the tenant to say, we have this case and investigation. Now, I get that the judge obviously has discretion, but we're not in control over what the judge does, but we are in control of whether or not we try to advocate for a tenant in which we are actively investigating the case. And if we did that, I think that would go a lot further than just saying we're just going to investigate and try to make the tenant whole. Because if you've lived any place for any period of time, the two months of rent and deposit may or may not be enough for having been put out of your of the place that you live, and all of the pain and suffering and all of the other things that come along with that, because moving is a process that typically takes a long time, can take a long time depending on how long you've been there. So we can do something to try to not just make the tenant whole financially, but advocate on behalf of the tenant, which is what was brought up the first time, or one of the prior times that we talked about this. That would go a long way.
Well, the good news is about this, Vice Mayor, to what you and Alderman Cooper are saying, is that city's legal counsel, if you look under 16310, B, investigation, C, a final report within 7 days after the complaint has been filed, the city's legal counsel will prepare a final complaint, which will include the following, which will include a preliminary finding on whether or not retaliation has been committed by the owner or local representative. If they do in fact find that there has been that there's probable retaliation, then we could enter that at the court level.
And we've also, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, that's all.
We're trying to focus on other things that we can do in certain situations that I mentioned earlier. There's criminal statutes we're looking into. As recently as the last couple of weeks, we've contacted Land of Lincoln. And as Alderman Cooper pointed out, that's not always something that can happen. We are not able to contact them on someone's behalf. We've got to get that tenant to contact them directly. We can certainly assist in that, but even if we make that contact, whether they take that case or not is up to them.
Well, not only that, is even if they even have a lawyer available for this area, and 9 times out of 10, I talk to these people, there's not even a lawyer available for them. So.
Right.
But I agree with what Alderman Teague said, that if we could be some type of advocate when they do go to court, just say, hey, we've got an investigation going on this, just give them some type of moral support. I think that would go a long way, and then we can investigate and then come up with our final determination. But I'm all in favor of that.
And just to be clear, that would be something we would do after we've made a determination that, okay, yeah, we believe it's a case of retaliation.
But I'd rather, I guess,
city court. I'm sorry.
Well, I know city court. I'm talking about if they go to county court, say we take them Vermilion County.
Right.
14 days after the city does a quote unquote inspection, the landlord goes, well, I didn't really like that. You're on a month rent. I'm going to evict you, do an eviction on you. I see a lot of them that really don't have a lot of reasons for it, but we've got a case going on in the city. Can't we go over there to the courthouse saying, hey, or at least try the advocate part being there's a possibility we have a case again on this situation. can we delay it a couple of weeks or whatever? Is that possible or not?
Alderman, the good news is, like you said, if it's a 30-day eviction, if our determination has to be done within 7 days, at that point, we'll know whether or not there's retaliation. If there is retaliation, then yes, we absolutely can and should intervene on the court. We can't just go over to court every time anybody has any kind of eviction proceeding and say, oh, well, we think that we have something.
I don't think that's going to happen. I just think we're only looking at a retaliation or a discrimination. I don't see a lot of contact. I don't think Sandy had a lot of contact with people on those cases. I mean, it may be one every 3 or 4 months. I think we need to just give the tenant some type of satisfaction that we're working on this to help them if the help is needed.
And I would also point out that in the past year, we have developed, I believe, much better relationships with a lot of the landlords. And so we're seeing action taken on a lot of different cases where it doesn't even get to city court. It's a text or a phone call, and a lot of these owners and managers of these properties have really stepped their game up, and we're building with myself and Rich, the Assistant Corporation Counsel, and our inspectors. We've got a much better relationship now, and that helps.
Yes, Alderman York.
That could also be because they believe there could be a consequence in response,
exactly.
okay, which is a benefit of this process right here.
Exactly.
I do have another question.
Yes, go
and
ahead.
it's actually for corporate counsel, and it's for my benefit. Just a question of clarification, and it was just based on the example Alderman Teague used, because I had a previous experience with corporate counsel Simon concerning a mold situation. Now, will the city inspectors inspect for mold?
Well, I mean,
I was told they will not.
Well, they'll inspect. They don't have certain tests to detect mold. Obviously,
that's what
if you can see it, they can see it and note it, but
obviously,
there's really...
okay. Yeah, because I was told that, the inspectors necessarily won't because they can't necessarily confirm. And then if that a tenant has to essentially initiate that process on their own. And so I think that's a huge issue. And I don't know if there's any way to address that. I don't believe there is.
I believe there is, because years ago, we had inspections for lead.
Oh, okay.
And we certified guys on lead, and they had the guns and everything. There's something out there for mold too.
Well, and I guess my question
all you
would
got to
be,
do is find it in the state and send our guys for mold remediation, or to look at and know what they're looking at.
Because that's a huge issue.
It is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Extremely. And I've got a couple other questions. You got a retaliation here. That's for 7 days that we're going to go in and we're going to look at. Okay? That's an inspector. What does it take for environmental? 7 days as well?
To do what?
Environmental complaint. Is that going to be 7 days, or going to be 2 weeks?
We'll go in and
inspector to go back in.
Yeah, those the environmental, which we can see, we don't need to be inside, like a rental inspector. The code violations that we can see, yeah, if we get those, we address those the same.
Now, who's doing that?
Our code inspectors.
Code inspectors, all of them.
We have 4 code inspectors.
But I'm just asking the question because I want verification. Is it the code inspectors who look at the outside of the houses, or is it the 2 that you've got to go inside the houses?
It depends on what the...
Let me finish here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just went through one where I had an inspector come in. When he walked in, he could care less if there was glass and everything else he walked through. Because you know what he told me? I'm an inside inspector. I don't care to see what's on the outside. That's exactly what I was told. So I want to know who you're sending in. Are you sending the 2 guys who go in and look at these places? Or are you sending somebody who doesn't have a clue what's going on the inside of the house?
Well, and what I'm saying is depends on the complaint. If it's outside, we send one of our code inspectors. If it's inside, that's something our code inspectors can't see. That's got to be our rental inspectors. They go inside and inspect.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
And I'd be happy to talk to you
There's no need to worry about it because it burnt down.
Okay.
And I called you when I had problems with him the first time.
I recall that conversation.
Yes.
I'm curious, was there a complaint that led to the inspection?
No, it was just
Routine inspection.
routine, just started. And I've got another one coming up, which is fine. We don't have a problem. But I understand you can make a phone call, but when you're working with a tenant on their time schedule, when they want to do something, because they don't want you in the house when they're not there, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like trying to get a plumber or an electrician within a week to 10 days, and then if you have to call them and you have to, good luck getting them back. So I could look at being fine because I've called and requested 1 or 2 different outlays for another week, another 2 weeks. And the system, there's problems in it. When my tenant called, and I didn't know anything about it. I knew absolutely nothing about this. My tenant called because she was going to be out of town. And she requested, okay, the inspector said that's not a problem. Do you think the tenant called and talked to me? No, she didn't. Because here's what the inspector said. I will send him a letter. Now, this was on a Tuesday. Do you know when I received that letter? On a Saturday afternoon. I was supposed to met on Wednesday. Yes. Tuesday, she called. Supposed to met on Wednesday. I knew nothing about it. I stood there and I waited. She wasn't home. So guess what? I get a letter on Saturday stating we rescheduled. Thank you very much. And that just happened 2 weeks ago. So that's all I've got.
Chairman, I'm sorry again for what you
Nope.
went through.
Nope, I'm learning.
We're learning too. We're going to get it right, and I thank you for helping us correct our mistakes.
So is there any other questions on the resolution, the ordinance in front of you, amending chapter 163?
Just one more.
Okay.
How many rentals do we have in this town?
So I think Vice Mayor Teague asked me that, and off the top of my head, I don't recall, but it is thousands.
I want to say we're close to that. We were at around the 50% mark. So if there are 1,100, let's say that there are 11,000 structures, there are roughly 11,000 aldermen. We have roughly 5,500 rental properties. A healthy ratio. And this is studies from when I was in grad school 20 years ago. A healthy ratio is about 30 to 40% at most.
What was the number that you said?
Pardon?
What was the number that you said?
Inspection houses.
Yes.
Yes, I said if we have 11,000 structures, I think it was around half, so I think it's around 5,500 to 6,000.
In the email that, thank you for saying that I asked that question, because then I went and pulled up my email. In the email, you said you estimated, this is Corporation Counsel said, I'm sorry, he estimated in the neighborhood of between 6,000 or 7,000. That was in the email in January. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. That's not right. More recent email. Danville has 3,138 rental addresses. Some addresses may have 1 or 100 units.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we have close to around 5,500 units, alderman.
Anybody else got anything else?
Oh, I could. I'm not going to.
All right, in that case, roll call, please, on 13A.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Streebing,
No.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 13B, we have a resolution in opposition to Danville Correctional Center's motion to vacate permanent injunction restoring the firing range. I would entertain a motion to dismiss with the reading and move for its approval. I will need a second. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on 13B? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
I'm thinking, 1 second.
Thinking.
I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to vacating the, so okay, yes. That's what I was trying to, I was like, wait a minute, okay, my bad.
I can see what you're doing, yeah. I
Alderman
understand that.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Streebing,
I will not be voting. Thank you.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Puts us to 13C, items of information and legal's monthly report.
Yes, you've got our report with our numbers from March of this year. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions on the monthly report? If not, thank you, Mr. Parker. Puts us 14, police, Chris Yates, Police Chief, item information and February 2025 offense daily reports.
Does anybody have any questions on that? There's a couple percentages that were off, but I don't think it's something that I'm gonna be too concerned about. We went from 4 to 0 in one category, from 24 to 25. I mean, it's a big deal that we went to 0. But as far as percentages, please look at the raw numbers. It's pretty close though.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? All right, thank you, Chief, thank you. Puts us to item number 15, Public Works. Dave Rui, Director. He has a bunch of resolutions. 15A, we have a resolution appropriating MFT funds for the maintenance of streets. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Chairman, would you entertain a friendly motion from one of the aldermen
Oh,
to
sure.
take items A through D as they're all for the appropriation of MFT funds?
Okay, do anybody want to make the motion? We accept the A through D?
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
All right, there we go. All right, so 15A, B, C, and D, all appropriations for MFT funds. So is there any questions on A, B, C, or D? If not,
Chairman, I'll just tell you,
Okay.
I'm really proud of our Public Works Department. You all have probably noticed we have not been able to allocate MFT funds for a long time, but because of all of the information that they provided, we were cleared to finally start using our MFT funds again. However, the additional several $1 million that we say we have more than them is still on hold for a while longer. I'm hoping that sometime this year we'll be able to report to you that we'll be able to allocate that money because we have projects that we need to do. So just wanted to let you know that our team has worked hard, and we also thank the state and IDOT for all of their efforts in helping us resolve these matters.
I think it was ridiculous. We went back, clear back years and years and years.
Alderman Ludwig and I were still in high school.
Yeah, it's,
Mayor, I'd like to just add into the kudos the treasurer's office and finance office because they worked their tails off as well to find all of the records that were needed. So it was a group effort for sure.
They were down in the vault for tussling.
something else didn't get thrown away. That's a good thing. If there's no other questions on resolutions A, B, C, or D, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. 15E is a resolution awarding the contract for bid number 769, commercial and Washington roadway improvements. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15E's resolution? Not, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering,
Yes.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Streaming.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. 15F, we have a resolution to approve purchase of a new 2023 F-350 dump bed truck. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15F's resolution? I would like to say and thank Alderman Poor for allowing it to come to Public Services to move. We've been pretty generous with both of us on working back and forth on timeliness issue. So if no other questions, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Streaming.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you.
Rick, I got a question.
Yes.
Dave, what, annex, they're about 2 weeks behind already?
Yeah, so just to give a brief update, I have a phone call scheduled for tomorrow morning to get an actual update for when demolition's starting. What I've been told is all of the asbestos has been removed from the annex. They're working through Breezy Tower. I know as of last week, at the end of last week, they were done with the first top 6 floors, I think, of asbestos removal in Breezy Tower, and they were just planning to continue down the tower this week. I think the hope is by the end of this week, all asbestos is to be removed. And then it'll be waiting for the equipment to move in and start demolition. But as far as the end date is concerned, we have been told that there's no concern with meeting the expected schedule for end date, completion date. So.
Alderman Cooper, essentially what happened is they were going to do all the asbestos in the annex, then demo it, then do the asbestos in Brazil and demo it.
Yeah.
Because of some frost rules in Michigan, they can't bring the equipment down yet, so they're going ahead to proceed with the asbestos removal in Breezy. And so that's how it kind of almost puts us back on schedule.
Well, Vermilion will probably be closed, won't it?
So so they said it'll only be like temporary closures, but they don't intend to close both lanes. That's part of our meeting tomorrow morning to kind of go through that. So I can provide next week. I'll make sure I have a very good update on what that looks like moving forward. But from my understanding from our pre-construction meeting, they planned on leaving the northbound lane of Vermilion open, and basically during demolitions of the annex, just closing the sidewalk, off-street parking, or on-street parking, and that southbound lane, just for the initial collapse the wall of the building in, and then they'd open it right back up. So maybe a day or two closure. Open it back up to move.
Still going to be a lot of truck traffic.
Yeah, and that is the path that they're planning to take, but that'll be more of like a flagged truck pulling out of the lot. I think they're planning on loading. They're kind of in the on-street parking, so. But I'll make sure next week in items of information I'll provide some better feedback for you on that.
Chief, did you have something that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, you hurt my feelings. Due to my timid nature, I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah. Oh
Wait for Patrick Swayze to jump out and say, nobody puts baby in the corner. No. Just a couple announcements. One, April 17th, we start the Citizens Academy. For those of you who have not been able to attend on council, this is a aggressive invitation.
Yeah, it is.
We'd love to have you there if you could see it, even if you can't make every one of them. If you could get on our website and enroll, or give me a call and get you enrolled. And that, for the public, it's open for the public. That's who it's intended mostly for. April 19th, and we're partnering up with the
Other Corinthian Lodge.
Yeah, Other Corinthian Lodge. And they're having an Easter egg hunt out at Friendly Town. We look forward to seeing all the kids out there. That'll be the first major event, 2025. April 24th, we have PTI graduation. We got 2 officer candidates over there right now. They're doing pretty well from all the reports I've heard. And we look forward to having them start their field training, probably be the first week of May. April 30th, we'll be swearing in up to 6 officers. We're waiting for some final test results to come back. And just an update on the training center activity. It's been busy out there. I don't know if the public works guys have noticed, but we actually have run into some conflicts where we had multiple trainings on the same day that we had to move around a little bit. So even though that's inconvenient for some, it's a good sign that it's definitely being used. And that's also where our Citizens Academy is at. And that's about it.
Chief, what about, is it premature to talk about the partnership with Oakwood for Friendly?
Oh, no, actually, we don't have all the final things set, but we're working like with Oakwood PD. They've reached out to me. They're wanting to have their version of the Friendly Town safety training. And hopefully, one thing that we've tried to put out and communicate with not just people within Danville, but there's resources that we can provide for people doing non-for-profit, needing a venue for whether it's training in which the training center can facilitate, or training and safety classes, or just fun days and healthy days for children out at the youth training center at Friendly Town. I'll bring out a report, but I remember when we were I was being pretty boastful after the first event that we had, and I said, I think we can have 800. We'll go 10 times as many as what we went the previous year before we did all the work out there. The truth be known, we had closer to 2,000 last year. And like I said, we're only limited to our imagination and willingness to do the work and partner with different people in our community, not just with Danville, but those people that also work in Danville and the people that come to Danville to shop or do whatever. So yeah, it's something it's really turning out to be pretty neat. The May 3rd and 4th will be the initial cleanup out there, community cleanup, and I'll cook up some dogs and burgers for whoever wants to attend. But all the islands that were sponsored and adopted last year, all but 2 have already confirmed with me that they want them again this year. So I expect to see as many, or if not more, out there on May 3rd and 4th. It'd be a good time.
So tell me again when the classes start for
Citizens Academy. April 17th. It's a Thursday. They're held on every Thursdays for 8 weeks, I believe. There will be a couple Wednesdays to accommodate different conflicts with other things going on. But I think it starts at 6 and it's usually over by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
And you can get on the city website?
Yeah, you can get on the city website, or you can contact my office or email Officer Long. He's the coordinator for it. His email is jlong, J as in John, and then Long, Long, @danvillepd.org.
Okay.
And you guys can always email me.
You guys can come out and help me and Alderman Cooper rake on the 3rd.
That's what I was going to ask.
I think we
wanted to make sure I had the correct
both
date.
had blisters after that because it was just been so long coming.
Yeah, and this year will be much easier.
Yes,
Because
it will.
we've been doing work, Public Works went out there and did some cleanup. We'll be hitting it the week before the 19th to get it ready for the kids with the Easter egg hunt. And also because I think Oakwood PD may be doing their class the week after April 19th, that Monday. I think it's the 20th on. But we haven't finalized all that, but that's definitely in the intentions. And if other police departments around Vermilion County want to reach out to me, and we've already got the curriculum and the setup for it. That'd be helpful because, a lot of the kids that grow up in Oakwood, Westville, Georgetown, Bismarck, they either become employed or potentially move to Danville. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that is available to them. So, and I think that's it.
Thank you, Chief, and I'm sorry I overlooked you. I didn't mean to put baby in the corner. And I'll hear about this later, believe me, folks.
We're good.
Yeah, I would like to thank Chief Yates and his department as a member of Corinthian Lodge number 31 for their support in the Easter egg hunt. We're looking forward to it.
I'll be there. They usually cook out, and I had to leave early last year. So, also, I wanted to make sure that I gave credit where credit is due on these resource cards. That's not the work of us by ourselves. This was something that was put together in a very good collaborative effort with people in the substance abuse section of Step Up.
Okay, thank you. Puts us to item number 16, Treasurer's Report. Chris Herron, Treasurer. He has 16A, April and May of 2024 Treasury Report and bank reconciliations, and we'll go into items of information. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. We have 2 more reports in front of you tonight, April 24, May 24, and we are getting closer to getting caught up going forward. The bank rec tracking is also on there. Any questions for me, please? Yes, ma'am.
My one question is, where are we with our audit?
The 24 fiscal year 24 audit is in its final stages. It's like daily 1 or 2 items that we're trying to get cleaned up. We're hoping to have it completed in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank both departments for everything you guys have done, because I'm going to tell you what, I knew we were going to have a mess, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. And to be this close to seeing the finish line, it's absolutely great. So thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're very excited because if we keep this up, we will actually start the fiscal 25 audit on time, which will be amazing. And I just want to say the Treasurer's Office has done a really good job of getting these recs caught up. But also in this process, we're developing new ways of doing business every day. And so it's a lot of change for parts of this, parts of the city staff, but it's only going to make it better going forward. We're well into the 25 recs, so that ideally won't be an issue when we get to that portion of the audit. We're just making improvements every day so that it's cleaner and we can do it more efficiently and faster.
And then everybody's on the same page.
And everybody's
that way.
on the same page. And, the treasurer's team has been doing a great job of helping us make sure that all of the changes are for the benefit of the reconciliation, not making it worse in the future. So.
Well, thank you again.
Oh.
Anybody got any more questions for him?
I'd like to ditto that also to the finance side of it, because it is a collaborative effort, and we're going step by step through all the departments and getting everybody on board. And so that's been an effort that Alyssa brought to the table that needs to be done, and it's getting done.
Chairman, they're also creating, instead of just having processes and procedures, they're putting in manuals, best practice manuals and things like that as well for everything, and that's outlined step by step.
Oh, so somebody can go back and look at it.
Putting in
That's something.
extra cross training, extra protocols for cross checks and such as well, so that we don't. Lord willing, we should never be in.
I understand. I was an auditor out of prison for many years. I didn't want to be on it, but I got sent all over the state. And after I got into it, I kind of liked it because I made people squirm. So I'm just saying. But thank you. And I know I happened to stop in the treasurer's office here 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he had a big problem. Did that all take care of with all the retirees? And pay.
I don't remember what problem you're talking about.
Okay.
Oh, the thing. Oh, yeah, I guess
bank,
that was a big deal. I was actually going to talk about that tonight a little bit, but you all probably know that Vibrant Credit Union got bought out by Great Lakes, or just actually it was just this branch here in Danville that got bought out. And it was very difficult on a lot of our pensioners that especially are out of town. A lot of them are elderly. They had no idea what was going on. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have anybody to call. And we just finished payroll yesterday for March, and hopefully we have all the changes that needed to be done. And we got a hold of every single pensioner. There was about 50 between the two, between fire and police, that had to be changed. But they're all changed. So we're very happy with that.
Yeah, when I walked in, he had half of it done. He said, I get to start all over again today. And he said, these people are elderly and they didn't know how, they couldn't access their accounts, they couldn't get, he was the guy who went through and held their hands and walked everything through, with changing both the numbers and everything else so they could get to their accounts, so.
And
Thank you.
unfortunately, they didn't have anybody at Social Security, or they didn't have anybody at IMRF.
Yeah.
You know, fortunately, a small town like us, we have people in the office that can help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kathy Corson, she helped a lot with some of these people with their IMRF. She was able to get a streamlined email to try to answer some of these questions for them. Where they tried to call IMRF, they got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And Social Security was just as difficult. Very difficult situation that Great Lakes put a lot of people through.
Well, I hate to hear you have it, but that's something else that you've dealt with, so that's a
Thank you.
plus. You learned something, so. Closed session, unfortunately, I don't think we have to go into that this evening. I don't know if you guys got any more items of information? Comments? If not, everything on the agenda has been taken care of. I'll need a motion for adjournment in a second.
Chair. Excuse me, Chair. I
Yes,
think
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone of the election on April the 1st. Everyone should get out and cast their vote, and hopefully they cast it in the right way. Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.